What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are doing our final mock of the 2024 NFL draft season with, of course, a 7-rounder. So yes, this is going to be a long, laborious process, but this is also done by my buddy Jordan Reid. Got to meet him there in Mobile, Alabama. Great guy. I would love to be able to finally review one of the 7-round mock drafts. So let's get right into it because this is going to be a long video. So, technically, he's actually already updated the trade, the Broncos trade. So that's awesome as well. We're going to go through every single pick. This is going to be a live reaction. So let's get right into it. Bears go Caleb Williams. Let's save ourselves the time, even though it takes 30 seconds to say great pick, yada yada. He's my #1 player. Below my face is my board, so you can always just check out exactly what I think by looking at that, but I'll also be explaining it in the video. So, pick number 2, Washington goes Jayden. Essentially, people are saying, even like Albert Breer, that they'd be extremely shocked if it does not end up being Jayden. He fits the Cliff Kingsbury system, extremely high floor. His processing over the middle needs work because he trusts his legs more. People love to twist some analysis and try to go to the extremes. It's not like Jayden's a crap over the middle processor. It's just he trusts his legs more, and I want him to trust his eyes and be able to use his legs when his eyes tell him that he needs to use his legs rather than just using his legs. But Jayden is my QB2. It is what it is. I have faith in him. Of course, I don't label myself as a quarterback guru. I try my best to be, and we're getting better and better. But, I do believe in Jayden Daniels a lot. Pick 3, you got New England Patriots going Drake Maye out of UNC. I think that that's the right move for the Patriots. We'll see if J.J. McCarthy, as a game manager and, a game manager with some extra upside, is the one to usurp Drake Maye, who's a little bit more low floor, higher ceiling. Of course, you have Jacoby Brissett there, which I feel like that's, good enough insurance policy to take Drake Maye, but it is what it is. So, at pick number 4, the Cardinals go Marvin Harrison Jr. I think we're starting to believe that this is a very, very possible top 4 because, as much as the Vikings are trying to trade up into the zone, when you look at it, it's going to be tough. It's very tough to trade up. Arizona's giving a hard bargain because you're getting almost a Hall of Fame wide receiver right here. I have a video I put on the Discord, which feel free to go check that out as well. But essentially, I had a video of him versus Joey Porter Jr. before last year's draft, and I said Hall of Famer versus Hall of Famer. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. right at number 5 on my board because I love a couple more players a little bit more, not loving Marvin Harrison any less, but I do think he does have that potential. Pick number 5, the Chargers go Joe Alt. Apparently now they're starting to really lean offensive tackle. I'd highly recommend moving out if that's going to be the case. I just don't think Joe Alt is a pure right tackle, but he is the best tackle in the class. It's not a bad pick, but if you can get 2 extra firsts, potentially end up getting a guy like Latham, and then, end up, hell, if you want to go wide receiver, maybe Rome Odunze in striking range, and then you can end up getting, A.D. Mitchell or Brian Thomas. I think that would be a better turnout, but that's my opinion. At pick number 6, we have the New York Giants going Malik Nabers. So, definitely the big question mark spot. Do they go a QB here? And, Jordan definitely highlights it right there. They do lack a #1 wide receiver. Malik was part of that live stream where his face went from extreme elation to just stone cold when the guys off screen started bringing up the quarterback for the New York Giants. I don't know if this would be the best move for Malik or New York because this is a very good receiver class, but more importantly, I don't think anyone believes in Daniel Jones to be the guy. Do you think Daniel Jones will win you a Super Bowl? I don't even know if his biggest supporters believe he can win a Super Bowl, and that's a question you got to ask yourself. What is the goal of the NFL? Is it to just be okay consistently, or is it to actually win a Super Bowl? And the draft spot at number 6, if JJ is there, will determine that answer. At pick 7, the Titans go Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington, over an offensive tackle. If Alt's off the board, I don't blame Tennessee. I would trade out of this spot if possible and end up still getting a top tier offensive tackle because I think the Titans have a couple holes that they still should be trying to fill. But you're essentially going to be adding Rome to a very stacked receiver core. Of course, DeAndre Hopkins entering that final year of his contract, you're going to be getting a contingency plan there. My only concern is you need to hit on an offensive tackle. We'll see what they do with the rest of the picks in the draft. But the Vikings trade up with the Falcons. I think this is a very logical move. I honestly think that the Vikings should have traded up with the Titans, but, the Titans wanted to stick and pick. So the Falcons end up getting essentially 2 4th-round picks. I don't know if I would do that necessarily if I'm the Falcons because, you're in win now move, but again, they're probably not going to be giving up anything except for, their selection, their choice. But their choice of edge rusher. But the Vikings end up getting J.J. McCarthy. Great move for the Vikings rather than giving up 2 first. But again, you gave up that 2nd-round pick to get that extra first, hoping probably to get Drake Maye, and you end up getting J.J. McCarthy. A little bit questionable there in terms of like what the front office is going to do. The Bears end up getting Dallas Turner. I think that's the best move that they can make based on the guys who are on the board. He's a fantastic player who needs a mentor. I have him at number 4 on my board, but if he goes to a team where he's the true edge 1, I think he's going to be lower on my board for a team that doesn't have a mentor in place for him. And so this is one of my top spots for him. I would definitely have a similar board to this for the Bears. Of course, Marvin would be a little bit higher. Pick number 10 for the Jets. They go Brock Bowers. It's not a bad pick at all, especially with Fautanu having like knee issues now. We didn't know about that until recently in terms of it being an actual flare up, but you're going to Fautanu has that issue, but you look at Fashanu and he's not really built to be a guard. And, you could go JC Latham here. I think that's a very possible option because he can kick into guard in the short run as he develops as a tackle. That wouldn't be a bad idea at all. But Brock Bowers is more of that guaranteed bet. And, the Jets are going to be getting a big difference maker at a position of need. That's not bad. And, every quarterback loves to have a reliable option, whether you pass them for 1,500 yards or not. Like, tight ends still are the ones who can get those first downs and make a big difference. I think that's perfectly fine. So I've come around to the Brock Bowers idea. At pick 11, the Falcons go Leatu Latu. So I think there's been 2 edge rushers in the past 8 years that have been drafted in the top 10 that are 23 or older. And they're only 23. So Latu is a little bit up there in age. It is likely that teams are not going to be a huge fan of his age compared to Dallas Turner. So Latu is a fantastic player. He is where is he at on my board? Number 15. I mean, he is right up there with Jared Verse. I'm probably going to drop Jared Verse a little bit compared to Latu. Like, they're essentially going to be next to each other on my board as well as Nealon. So big fan of all of them. But Latu's preparation for the game is what sets him apart for me. It's not, those quick wins are awesome, but it's the way he mentally prepares for them that really is what makes me have a lot of faith in his ability. The Eagles end up trading up for Terrion Arnold, God bless, sending 50 and 161. I don't think they should go after Quinion Mitchell, and this is the reason why. It is going to be an upgrade if they go Quinion. I'm not going to be mad if they go Quinion. I will be sad that they don't go Terrion, because in worst case scenario for the rest of the DBs on the roster, Quinion ends up being like a top tier corner. He ends up being your starter. Awesome. But there is a legitimate chance that Keely Ringo develops, Eli Ricks develops. And you could mention the other guys as well behind him, but primarily those 2 guys. None of those guys can play in the slot. And that means that there's going to be a massive hole there. And you can't just say Chauncey because he's on a 1-year deal, and Chauncey is built to be a safety. He says he's a safety. He's just played games in the slot as well. So you want your guy to be able to have that flexibility to play on the boundary or in the slot. Terrion Arnold can do that, and he is like the perfect player for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no player better in this draft except Terrion, like in this draft. Maybe, Marvin Harrison Jr. could be, but Terrion Arnold would probably be number 2 on my board for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a phenomenal player, and he fits a role. Like, I already know Marina's going to come in trying to say he's a 3rd-string cornerback. No disrespect, Marina, but, your football knowledge has been questionable for this draft cycle, but next draft cycle, we'll be back. But Terrion Arnold's a fantastic player. He'll be one of the best, if not the best player in the entire draft when it comes out, as the Eagles eventually now have somebody who could be a every down starter for the next 10 to 15 years. Pick number 13, the Vegas Raiders go Tali Fuaga. I just don't think he's going to be a right tackle. I really do think he ends up as a guard, but worst case scenario, this team still needs a right guard. So you're going to be getting a big difference maker, and I think that's perfectly fine. He's a top-tier player, top-tier dude. Got to meet him there in the Senior Bowl as well in Mobile, so, very excited for that. Saints go Fashanu out of Penn State to play their left tackle spot. I think that's perfectly fine. Trevor Penning is as useless as he should have been evaluated when he came out. He was a guy who people got excited because he was someone who could maul people around, throw them around, and cause fights. But at the end of the day, you have to play football. And he doesn't play football very well. And we've seen that. Fashanu will be a massive upgrade. I think that's the best move you can make. At pick 15, the Colts go Brian Thomas Jr. Based on the guys who are on the board, I'd prefer to go after a corner here in Quinyon Mitchell. But, Brian Thomas, far from a bad option for the Colts. I just love the idea of letting Alec Pierce try one more time. But I understand if you don't. Of course, the Steelers trade up. They got to get in on the offensive tackle run for J.C. Latham, trading pick 84 and 20 to get up to 16. That's a little bit rich based on the trade up from 11 to 8, in my opinion. I think that the Steelers should have gotten something back, but at the same time, whoop-de-doo, we've been able to fleece people in this offseason. J.C. Latham's going to be a massive upgrade. My only issue is that I think he might have to be a guard in the short run. His processing during the play just isn't there for me, but of course, you do have some very smart offensive linemen on the team, and to me, that might be good enough. I'm going to be happy with it because he will be a really solid starter. Nonetheless, it's just, I don't know if he's a guaranteed right tackle. I would have preferred, actually, to move up and select Quinyon Mitchell here. But that's me. Pick 17 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They go Quinyon Mitchell. As good of a pick as you could probably ask for, except maybe Terry and Arnold. But Jacksonville Jaguars get an absolute steal there. Bengals go Byron Murphy at 18. I'm a fan of it. There are some really good right tackles down the board. I'd prefer to go after a superstar here in Byron Murphy, who is now the odds favorite to go at number 9 overall to the Bears. Pick 19, the Rams go Jared Verse. Jared Verse is going to be a great compliment there for Byron Young. I think that, the Rams will most likely try to move back because I know that Schrager is probably the most reliable source on the Rams. It'll probably be offense or move back. Jared Verse is a great choice, though. Going to be hard to shame it, but it just doesn't seem very likely. For the Seahawks, they end up going Fashanu at 20. Again, there's issues potentially with his knee. That might be the reason he is here. The Seahawks are going to get a great player, and he has that tackle and guard versatility that you are looking for. At 21, the Dolphins go Amarius Mims. You're going to have to train him up to be a left tackle. That's going to be one thing. But number 2 is that he can't play guard. So I really don't like the short-term implications of this. But, again, you're taking a swing on somebody. Terran Armstead's not going to be there for the long run. This is a long-run move. It's just there's no immediate impact, which would be my concern for the team. But Amarius Mims, certainly worth taking a roll of the dice on. It's just, you have to bring up the genuine concerns there. At pick number 22, the Broncos, via that trade back, get Bo Nix. I think that's incredible. Bo Nix is extremely underrated. Hate to say it. He's a talented-ass quarterback. Just gets a lot of hate for really no reason. Just people don't like him because people don't like him. So good for them. Even though they traded for Zach Wilson, who cares? So I like that as well. Then we have, Arizona, it moves up to 23. The Vikings end up moving back. So they ended up giving 2 fourths and get a third in return. The Cardinals move up for Nate Wiggins. I wouldn't do this. I think this class is stacked at corner, but, I just personally am more on the go corner train. You can see my board. I have some guys extremely high, so I'm going to be a little bit more biased on it. Nate Wiggins is a talented dude. I've ended up bringing him up my board significantly because the more I think about it, it's one of those players that I want to give more credit to than I did. The Chiefs end up jumping up with the Cowboys and end up selecting A.D. Mitchell, so they're fine with one player with personality concerns. Now they get 2. No disrespect to my buddy Rashee Rice. He was the first interview on this show, so I can't, obviously he's someone who I know personally, so I like to poke a little bit of fun, but probably a little too soon. But the Chiefs do need to get a number 1 wide receiver. A.D. Mitchell would be a stud. The Packers end up going Graham Barton to play flexible offensive line spot. I just think this team is so good at sniping dudes down the board. It'd be very hard to believe that they'd go O-line round 1. I do think this is a spot where we do see the first linebacker come off the board. because it's just, Edgerrin Cooper has so much untapped potential. And if there's going to be a team that takes a linebacker in the first, it's probably going to be the Packers. Buccaneers go chop. I've been seeing this everywhere. And, I'm a little bit confused on this. So, I just don't get the love for Chop Robinson. Like, the quick wins are awesome. Like, I've seen the high level play, but his overall impact on the game as, an every down starter is just not going to be there. And especially for a team like the Buccaneers that need an every down starter, there's some teams that could take shots on Chop and develop him, right? Like, there's some good teams in there. Even the Bears, if the Bears want to trade back a significant margin, let's just say the Bills want to move up for him, that's great because you have somebody who can train him up. But shoot, like, you're going to have to really hitch your wagon to Chop Robinson if you want a day one impact, which the Buccaneers are, you have final years of these veterans. Like, they're in their swan song year, and you're getting Chop. I've seen this on so many mock drafts. This isn't specifically about this one, but just in general, it does make me question it. Vikings then go Johnny Newton through a trade back, which is ridiculous value. I honestly thought the Cardinals would have traded up for Johnny Newton rather than a trade back or trade up for a corner and then let the Vikings snag a great player here at 27. At 28, the Bills go Xavier Worthy. I've been hearing that some people have him at wide receiver 4 on their board. I just never fell in love with Xavier Worthy that much. That's just me. I'm worried about the Bills in terms of the composition of their receiving core. A lot of dudes who are pretty much slot only, especially in terms of size. I'm just worried about Xavier Worthy size-wise, man. 165, he should have ran in the 4.2s. Like, you need to. So, concerned about that, but I'm praying that it does end up being the Tank Dell situation where, I guess I can't even bring that up. He broke his leg, but Tank Dell ended up being pretty damn successful until that injury. The Lions then get Cooper DeJean. I love that. You're just going best player available. You don't need a safety at all, but Cooper can play boundary corner, and you pair him up with Carlton Davis. I'm perfectly fine with that. I really like that. Pick number 30. Commanders trade up for an offensive tackle, I assume, and they do Tyler Guyton. I don't know why Baltimore would pass on this, but if I'm the Commanders, I'm running to that podium. I love that. For a third-round pick, it seems expensive, but hell, man. To get a player like Tyler Guyton, I think that's worth it. I really do. At pick 31, the Niners go Kool-Aid. I'm fine with this one, too. Kool-Aid's going to be a massive addition for the Niners. Brings a ton of experience. He's a corner one for a very long time. He's shut down. Like, his resume speaks for itself. I think that he's getting a little bit of the short end of the stick, even though he's 29 on my board. I think that he should be respected even more. And, for me, I'm starting to think I should start reorganizing my board a little bit more. There's a lot of players I fell in love with, though, so that's the only reason he's there. Not because of the talent that he has, but maybe because I fell in love with some other players. Cowboys then go Jordan Morgan. The thing I love about this, though, the Cowboys ended up getting some extra picks in that trade back. Jordan Morgan can kick into guard, and Tyler Smith can be the tackle that he was always supposed to be. And I think that that's going to be exactly what happens here. Jordan Morgan's my number 2 left guard in the class. He's, that's what he is to me. He's a left guard. But he does have the ability to play tackle if you need him to. He's my number 11 tackle in the draft and my number 2 left guard. So it's perfect. It really is. You have that flexibility, and you get those extra picks. I think I love that. Panthers then end up going Jackson Powers Johnson. He's a top 50 player on my board. I think the Panthers would love the aggression that you get from JPJ. There's just some inconsistencies to his game that popped up that I really wish weren't there, but it was his first year playing center, so it is a little bit different than playing guard. Patriots then select Keon Coleman to pair up with their star quarterback in Drake Maye. I am all for that. You get a true wide receiver 1 right there. He's my number 33 player in the draft. Christian Haynes ends up going to the Cardinals at 35. I'm a fan of Christian Haynes. I just think his anchor needs to hold up. Yes, re-anchor, great. But re-anchors still collapse the pocket. Like, when you're already pushed back, the pocket is no longer like this. You are here, and your tackle's here. You have that now. That's not a pocket boundary. So that's my only concern with Christian Haynes. Otherwise, right now he's listed at 35. He's going to end up dropping quite a bit. I'm still adjusting the board for the interior offensive line because The linebackers have been the ones I've been focusing on, but he essentially will end up being probably top 75 on my board. Still a fan of his game. That's just one thing that is an Achilles heel for me. Then you got the Ravens going Darius Robinson. A lot of people think he's a day one lock. I mean, I think that's very foolish to say anybody near the late first is a day one lock because there's so many good players. But, in this situation, the Ravens move back. They get a talented player here in Darius who can be very flexible in his role. And that's okay. That's okay. I still would have went Tyler Guyton because I think this O-line is kind of booty cheeks, but we will see what they do with their other picks. The Chargers go Ladd McConkey at 37. With those back, and I think it's shoulder issues. It might be knee. Feel free to check that yourself. But, he actually might end up being here and slipping. This would be a great value for the Chargers. I'd love that combination with Quentin Johnston there. The Titans end up going Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU at 38. I'm a little bit scared about this. He's going to play right tackle for this team because I just saw so much more comfortability at that right tackle spot in 2022. 2022 rather than this past year. He's learned a lot over the year, but he still had so much to learn at left tackle. It scared the living hell out of me. But looking at his tape at right tackle, and even in the Senior Bowl when he was taking some right tackle reps, I really saw someone who was much more comfortable. So I think that he'll end up being a right tackle, which means the left tackle spot still vacant. 39 for the Panthers go Xavier Leggett. I love it. Kids from the region as well. I talked to the Panthers media team. Shout out to Dan, chill ass dude. But, he ended up saying that they were pretty much there to interview Xavier Leggett as well as Tez Walker, who are both who are both pretty local guys. Pick number 40, the Commanders go Adisa Isaac. Very interesting. I don't really know if Adisa will get this type of love. A little bit undersized, didn't test as well as maybe you'd hope for, but super high IQ. One of those guys who always knows where the play is going to be, and at the end of the day, sometimes you don't have to be a playmaker. You just sometimes you have to be the guy who doesn't let a big play happen. And Adisa is certainly one of those guys. He's a great supporter. I just don't know if I want to draft a supporter at 40. Pick number 41, the Packers go Edgerrin Cooper. That's what I was saying for the first round. It is very possible. And, with quite a few teams needing some linebacker, I think linebacker is one of the positions that's the most undervalued in the NFL because we don't have any real good linebackers. Of course, that does show you that linebackers don't always, or very rarely, end up working out from the draft. Could also give you a reason why not to draft them. So, catch 22, right? But this is a great pick for him. Edgerrin Cooper is by far my linebacker one by actually 5%, 5 points. So, it's not even 5% gap. It's like a noticeable margin. 42, the Texans go Chris Jenkins. Perfectly fine move right here. He's a super high floor defensive interior. It's a little bit early, but honestly, I'm fine with it. Falcons then go Ennis Rakestraw. He is a top 15 player for me. I love Ennis. It is what it is. I'm a big fan of the Missouri guys. I'm willing to die on that hill. I think this would be a great move for the Falcons too because he has slot versatility in case of injury or in case of the fact that he can't play boundary corner. But I think he still could. Pick number 44, the Vegas Raiders go Michael Penix. Incredible value. I would just say that, it makes sense for a team to trade up to the late first for him because, the arm talent is ridiculous. Those high-end plays are worth it, especially for a team like the Raiders that they pretty much have game managers. Like, this guy brings the heat. But, obviously at 44, it's incredible value. At pick number 45, the Saints go Marshawn Kneeland. So Marshawn Kneeland right here at the top of my draft board at 17. Love him. Friend of the show. I'm going to see if we can call him up during the draft and, congratulate him and stuff. Great dude. Love him to death. Wishing the best for him. He says he's going to be probably a second round pick. He's heard whispers of late one, but when someone hears whispers, let's just be a little bit more, conservative and think about, making a really good impact on a team in the second round rather than having to, be bummed out about maybe missing out on the first. Because the second round is still a great, you're being valued as one of the top 64 players in the country, essentially. That's draft eligible. Pick number 46, the Colts go Jayden Hicks. I like Jayden Hicks. He doesn't have an all-22 grade for me just yet. I've watched quite a bit of tape on him. He is exciting. He was my safety one for a while. He's fluctuated a little bit. There was a point where he missed almost half of his tackles during the year. But he's somebody who the high-end play is there. I love seeing that ascension. So, nothing but positive things to say. The Colts do need some extra help at safety for the long run. I just don't know if I don't know how comfortable I am with taking Jayden this early. TJ Tampa goes to the Giants. I'm not a big TJ Tampa fan. That's just me. I like Deonte Banks pick, but I mean, I love the idea of going corner for the Giants. I'm just not a TJ Tampa guy. You got the Jaguars going Troy Franklin. I've been harsh on Troy. For me, Troy's movement to the NFL, we'll see what team he goes to, of course, because that's going to reflect my expectations for him. But it'll really show me how much I should value guys who don't do well on the gauntlet drill. For me, I think that there's just like a baseline level of respect that you should have for every drill. And if you obviously did not prepare for it, or you're just not good at something, it is worth noting. But he is very slender. He didn't test incredibly. 4.41 is good, but at 176, again, it's something you should do. But he is a good blocker. He's a great route runner. On the field, he's awesome. And I think that's really what matters. So it's somebody who, I've given a lot of flack, but that's because of the lack of respect for that gauntlet drill. But we'll see empirically if it ends up being something we should value to that degree. Jalen Polk goes to the Bengals. I love the fit. I would just say it's a little bit early. So, it's something that I think would end up working out. I still would just go for a right tackle here in Roger Rosengarten. The Broncos, via this trade, end up getting Chris Braswell at 50. I think it's a bit early for Chris, but, you're getting a really experienced guy. Like, for a while, it was kind of ludicrous to have Chris fall this far. So, Braswell, certainly a very talented player. He's going to be a bit more experienced. I think the Broncos should be looking a little bit more towards the future. And not getting someone as much day one ready with a lower ceiling. But Chris Braswell is going to be far from a bad pick. It's just maybe a little bit uninspiring. Roman Wilson goes to the Steelers at 51. It's a bit early for me, but Roman Wilson's another one of those players where I feel bad for the comments I made about him. And he's one of those players that I've been more excited about than what I've originally put out there. I'd be happy to have him on the Steelers just a little bit later than this. 52, the Rams go Max Melton. That's as good of a pick as you could ever ask for. I highly doubt that he's here. I think he will end up being a top 40 pick because he's just electric, man. He's an electric corner and, has his brother in the NFL. Like, he's a really, really fun player. The Rams would love it. They would love it. So, that's going to be a top-end player for him. Pick number 53, the Eagles go Junior Colson. He ended up being my linebacker 2, and that's a great pick for the Eagles. Doesn't fit the Fangio system, but so far, not many of the free agents have. So, Junior Colson would be a fine addition. You got the Browns going Michael Hall Jr. here out of Ohio State. His high-end plays are ridiculous. You end up pairing him with Myles Garrett, and you might get the player that you really wanted from Perry and Winfrey a couple years ago. You got the Dolphins going Braden Fisk at 55. He's very similar to Michael Hall. Those high-end wins are awesome. So we'll see what happens there. Defense interior is certainly a position to target, but he's a little undersized for the role that I'd want him. Pick 56, the Cowboys go Jonathan Brooks. It just seems like the easy team to go for the first running back. And this is just a class that's a little bit uninspiring, but they still have some very good guys out there. Cowboys get themselves a good one there, Jonathan Brooks. The Buccaneers go Zach Frazier at 57. I love it. Coming off a leg break, that's why he should be here. He's one of the players I really did enjoy watching. Maybe I wasn't overly ecstatic about him, but I'm pretty sure he's a top 64 player on my board or very close to. Off the top of my head, I cannot even find him on here, and it's a waste of our time for me to do that. But regardless, Cole Bishop goes to the Green Bay Packers. It's my dream fit for him, that or the Bills. So the Packers get themselves a stud there in Cole. So getting Cole Bishop, Edgerrin Cooper, as well as Graham Barton is one hell of a great way to start the draft. Texans then go Mikey Sainristil. I'm going to be honest, he's going to be a really, really energetic guy. He's going to be a guy who galvanizes the locker room. And the way that, he's an enforcer on the field, I love the identity that he'll set for a team. I just think that he's still developing as a defender because he's a former receiver, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But, he really can be, someone who is the face of a defense. And, he might get clowned for being, when he's not in man coverage, sometimes he does tend to look a little bit lost on the field, but man, when this guy makes a big play, it's going to cause a major ripple effect, and I love it. 60, the Bills go Javon Bullard. I'm just not a big Bullard guy. I'm going to reevaluate all the safeties tomorrow. I know, it's fucking crazy. I'm going to be reevaluating the safeties the day of the draft. It is what it is. It's what you do at work when people want to take a work break. I ended up actually scouting more players. But the Lions then go Ricky Pearsall at 61 with a massive contract that was just given out to their star wide receiver and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do think that trying to acquire talent at a cheaper rate in the receiving core is a smart thing to do financially, and Ricky Pearsall is a great value at 61. Ravens go Malachi Corley at 62. Feels like a move that they might want to make, but I don't know. I just don't really... I feel like Zay Flowers and Malachi Corley's roles would be a little overlapping, but he's going to be great after the catch nonetheless. 63, the Niners go Roger Rosengarten, my dream fit for him. I said that on Twitter. Feel free to follow me there because I post actually a lot of All-22 now as well, because I found a really good, easy way to show you guys some good All-22 without getting taken down. But the Niners go Roger Rosengarten. That's a dream pick. The Chiefs then go Dom Pooney. I just wasn't a huge fan of his game. I'm going to be honest. I wanted to love Dominic Pooney. I really did, and I just didn't. But with some of the guys coming up on contracts, it makes sense for the Chiefs to get a versatile interior offensive lineman. Jonah Ellis goes to the Panthers at 65. He ended off the year with a bummed shoulder, so it sucks to see that. I think he's a DPR exclusively, but his ability as a pass rusher is incredible. I just don't think he has the run IQ to play against the run. Ruggiero goes to the Cardinals. I mean, he's a top 50 player on my board. I'm pretty sure he's like right there. He's up there in terms of his overall ranking at 46. So, yeah, he's a top 50 player. That's great value. He's someone who will help out the defense interior, and he could even be an edge rusher. At pick number 67, the Commanders go Kamari Lassiter. They certainly need some extra corner help, and Kamari's 4.65 will definitely help him. Slip to the Commanders, and he plays incredibly well. That's not going to be a major issue for him, I don't think, if the Commanders are actually smart with how they use their corners. Pick 68, Patrick Paul goes to the Patriots. One of those guys I'm going to watch one last time. I've already watched him 4 times in a row, but we're going to watch him a 5th because I want to see what y'all see in him. He did not end up being in my top 20 tackles, but I'm hoping that I'm wrong because good football is always better than being right. Trey Benson goes to the Chargers. That's ridiculous value. He's my RB1 in the class. Giants go Mason Smith. That's my dream spot for him as well. Dexter Lawrence. He needs a mentor. Dexter Lawrence will make him into a super freak. I'd be scared shitless if I were in the NFC East and I saw Mason Smith pairing up with Dexter Lawrence. That's a ridiculous combo. Cardinals then go Austin Booker. 240 pounds, underwhelming testing, but he does have some really solid tape from the Senior Bowl. I didn't think his actual tape from Kansas was awe-inspiring, but at the end of the day, Senior Bowl tape does matter a lot. 72, the Jets go Blake Fisher. Incredible value. That's as good as you can ever ask for. He's someone who could probably kick into guard in the short run as well in case of injury, but this is a guy who you might get a massive return from developing him for 1 year. At pick 73, the Lions go Cooper Beebe, who is my left guard number 1. So you guys know how I feel about that. That's incredible value. Falcons go Brandon Dorless, one of those players who I will be reevaluating as well. Just very tough to evaluate someone who is an edge rusher and a defensive interior. He's an interesting tweener, but the high-end reps are certainly there. Bears go Jalen McMillan at 75. He's a perfect replacement for Keenan Allen. I just think that he doesn't complement the receiving core well enough for the short run, which, it's not bad, but I just think there might be some better players. Andrew Phillips is my number 9 player in the class. Call me crazy. I mean, I know I am, but I might as well be crazy and honest rather than, sane and boring. So, I don't do stuff on purpose for reactions. As you can tell, I have a board below my face and I rarely talk about it apart from when I'm referencing someone else's pick because I don't need to flex my board. For you guys, I just want you to understand what I think without having you guys have to pay for one. Because, again, this is not my full-time job, so I don't really need this to pay my bills. It'd be nice too, so we can make that happen. But essentially, I just want you guys to have a better experience, and I think this is, a unique way to be able to show you guys how I think. Pick 77, the Raiders go Renardo Green, my number 34 player in the class. Great value for a position that the Raiders definitely need. The Raiders are killing it in this draft. The Ravens end up going Karan Amagaji at 78. I love it, love it, love it. I just still think that they should have went after a starting offensive lineman. Karan Amagaji is my tackle 17, but I love him to death. I think this is a great spot for him to develop, but it's very risky business. Pick 79, the Falcons go Tez Walker here. He's a big dude who runs really fast. Hands have been an issue, but you have a year pretty much to develop him, and I think Kirk Cousins could get a lot out of Tez Walker. At pick number 80, the Bengals go Ben Sinnott. perfectly fine in my book. I'd prefer someone who has a little bit more in terms of his overall blocking acumen than Ben Sinnott, but Ben Sinnott's a perfectly fine asset at 80. At 81, the Seattle Seahawks go Peyton Wilson. Have seen some injury flare-ups now, or injury red flags being more legitimized rather than being on one Tony Pauline report. But, he is my linebacker number 3. At 82, the Colts go Cam Hart out of Notre Dame. It's a pick I've made several times. Having great length, being big, physical, it's a good pick for Indy. It's just, I don't know how. It's going to be another player that is similar to Juju Brents. I don't know if he's a true corner one. This team has a lot of guys who I think are really good contributors in the corner core, but none of them are true corner one. Pick number 83, the Rams go Spencer Rattler. That's unbelievable value. I mean, I would applaud the Rams for doing that, so good for them. Seahawks go Jatavian Sanders at 84. He gets lost in the mix, but he's still a good player. Third round's perfectly fine for him, man. So good for the Seattle Seahawks. Then at 85, the Browns go Javon Foster. Javon's getting a lack of love as well. He's a very talented offensive tackle. You guys know I've been a big fan of him, and he's, of course, a Missouri. Why am I forgetting the hell the Missouri are? Missouri, whatever the hell their team is, but you guys know I love Missouri. So, Javon Foster, right on brand for me. Texans go Tyler Nubin. I'm just not a big Nubin guy, but, I do know that a lot of people are. I'm just more against Nubin. But the Texans getting a good value for safety, according to Jordan's board, makes a lot of sense. Cowboys go Makai Wingo. He's someone who's going to be a great pass rusher, a little bit undersized, but, you can't go wrong with being able to generate pressure on the quarterback. I just think it might be a little early. 88, the Packers go Kyrie Jackson. Physical, big corner, right up the alley for the Packers. I do think that when you do analyze what the defensive coordinator values and you look at how Boston College played their defense, they do value man coverage as well as physicality. Kyrie Jackson brings the heat in terms of that. But I think you look at Elijah Jones, it's not going to be the biggest man in the world. Kyrie Jackson's 6'4", 200 pounds. It might be a little bit off-brand to go after a corner of this physicality, of this size, unless it's Cooper DeJean, because Cooper DeJean is super flexible in terms of his role. Then we go Mason McCormick. I don't know why we see Kalen Bullock right there. I didn't see anything pop up about Kalen Bullock, but Mason McCormick goes to the Buccaneers. Right now, he's close to the bottom of my board. I just don't like him very much, and I really hope I'm wrong because it's always fun to see a small school product end up succeeding a lot, but Mason McCormick's just not my guy. He's just not. I have a whole entire interior offensive lineman video to discuss that, so feel free to check it out where I break down 35 interior offensive linemen. But the Vikings go Brandon Coleman here. I love it. I even in that 35 video, top 35 interior offensive lineman video, I undersold Brandon Coleman a lot. Watching back that Senior Bowl tape, the one-on-ones, I should have put him way higher. So Brandon Coleman's going to be getting a lot of love from me in the draft cycle. I think this is an excellent move. Great anchor, a lot of power. Could end up being a superstar tackle too, though. Pick 91, the Packers go Jaylen Wright. Home run hitter would be very intriguing to pair up with the guys that they do have there in Aaron Jones, as well as Quadzilla there. But Jaylen Wright, I didn't think he was that awe-inspiring. We'll check it out because, again, I'm going to be just checking out a couple of the final players one last time before I solidify my opinions. Chris Abrams-Drain goes to the Buccaneers at 92. He's a very versatile, talented piece. Can play in the boundary, can play in the slot. I like it. At 92, it's good value. Kalen Carson to the Ravens. Kalen is a fantastic player. He's in my top 40, if I'm not mistaken. He's number 40. So, again, pretty self-explanatory there. He's a talented player, very smart in zone, just a little bit athletically limited. The rest, honestly, I think makes up for it. I love his game overall. Niners end up going Leonard Taylor. They do need defensive interior, and you're betting on a player who tested out very poorly, who ended up playing less than what he was supposed to, but still has shown the talent. The talent's certainly there. I still have a lot of faith in Leonard Taylor. He'll be a top 150 player for me, no doubt. Someone who I'll be really rooting for, and if he goes to the Niners, I will be back on the train saying that he's higher on my Niners board than he is mine. Pick 95, the Cowboys end up doing, via Houston with their trade to Kansas City. So this is part of that trade back originally. They go Cedric Gray. Cedric Gray is a good player. I have him, I think, in my top 150, but he actually might end up being a lot lower than that when I factor in every single position. Jacksonville Jaguars go Braylon Trice, edge out of Washington. at 96. Talented dude who just ended up dropping 30 pounds for the combine. Otherwise, he was a top 10 player for me. So, it's just really confusing what Braylon Trice wants to do, but the talent is undeniable. The Jaguars get themselves a really good one there. Bengals go Christian Jones at 97. I ended up really not liking Christian Jones as much as I wanted to. He's going to be probably a later day 3 guy for me. Cedric Van Pran to the Steelers is awesome. You get to pair up our beloved left tackle, and Broderick Jones with his former center here in Cedric Van Pran. The high-level tape's ridiculous. He just whiffs way too much. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Cedric Van Pran. Dwayne Carter goes to the Rams at 99. His bull rush is ridiculous, just not really athletic much other than that. But, sometimes just collapsing the pocket is worth a top 100 pick, and Dwayne Carter certainly did that a lot. Marshawn Lloyd goes to the Commanders at 100. He's literally, what's his name? Why am I tripping balls? I see him in the uniform for the Rams. I'm tripping. Former Eagles back. DeAndre Swift, former Lions back. He's DeAndre Swift with fumbling issues. And I think that's worth a top 100 pick. Just teach this guy not to fumble the ball, and he's a freak show. Round 4, pick 101. Panthers go Javon Baker. I love that. Just one of those players. There's no UCF All-22 tape out there from the sources I use. That sucks. But Javon Baker, from what I've seen, is awesome. He'll end up being a top 120 player on my board. Seahawks go Josh Newton. He's going to be a little bit closer to those 200s range, but you know what? Not a bad idea. He's an experienced corner. Patriots go Kalen Bullock, who is my second highest graded safety at the moment. Cardinals go Blake Corum. He's a talented dude who just kind of slipped a little bit since his ACL tear, but, he was almost a first-round pick a couple years ago, if not just a little bit over a year ago, before he ended up injuring himself and having to stay for another year in Michigan. Trayvon Wallace going to the Chargers at 105. This is relatively good range. I just think that he's primarily an athlete, and his athleticism pops up on tape, but he's a developmental product. Mo Kamara to the Titans, incredible value. He's a top 64 player for me. He's old. It is what it is, but I'd rather get an older player who sticks on my team for a first, if not second contract, rather than going after a project player who might not even stick on after 2 years. Mo Kamara is going to be a dude who could easily surpass that first contract. Audric Estime goes to the Giants. It seems a little bit too much overlap. I'm pretty sure they have Singletary there at the moment, slipping my mind. But Audric Estime, I feel like, is a little bit overlap in terms of those roles. I would have loved if they ended up having Jalen Wright here for that to be the pick. Devondre Sweat goes to the Falcons at 108. He's just slipping down here because he got DWI, essentially lied about his character in all of his interviews. And when you lose the NFL's trust, it kind of makes sense. Brother of Josh Sweat, though, so might end up still getting him drafted relatively higher. Falcons end up getting DTD, Dadrian Taylor Demerson out of Texas Tech. Don't really think the Falcons need to be spending picks on safety apart from corner/safety hybrids. That's just my take, though. Chargers go Elijah Jones at pick 110. Elijah Jones is a talented dude, man. Talented guy. There's just not enough all-22 for me to give an honest opinion about Elijah Jones's game. I loved what he did over in the Senior Bowl, though. Probably would have ended up being a top 100 player for me if I ended up fully grading him and had access to PFF Ultimate. Pick 111, the Jets go Malik Mustafa. Another one of those Senior Bowl players I really, really liked. And the Jets need a safety. It's good value there. Raiders go Christian Mahogany at 112. He is a bully. He is a great anchor. I love him to death. At this range, it is perfectly fine in my book. The dude just is a deer in headlights at points. Ravens end up going Isaiah Adams. I love that flexibility of him being a tackle potential as well. He actually would probably end up starting at right tackle, in my opinion, when the season comes around. Marcus Harris is the defensive interior selection for the Jaguars at 114. A little bit early, in my opinion, but, he has given some interior offensive linemen some problems, so got to show some respect where respect is due. Bengals go DeCamerion Richardson. I love that to death. Freak athlete. He's in the 4.37 range, and he has a lot of flashes of excellence. I just think that, he's a couple years away from developing into a starting quality corner. And at 115, that's worth taking. Delmar Glaze goes to the Jaguars at 116. Another player I just couldn't get on board with. I love Maryland players to death, and I just cannot get on board with any other linemen. I want to so badly. I just couldn't get on board with Delmar Glaze as a tackle or a guard. Colts then go Miles Cole at 117. He had awful agility drills, but he's a freak athlete besides that. 37 or 38 inch arms, as well as obviously creme de la creme. But he's a top tier athlete minus the flexibility portion, which showed up a lot in the Senior Bowl one-on-ones. I doubt he'd end up going in the top 200, but still a fun player to highlight. Christian Boyd to the Seahawks. That's a good dude. He's fun. He ended up shining at the Shrine Bowl, and he just has a little bit shorter arms. Didn't end up getting a combine invite, if I'm not mistaken. DJ James goes to the Steelers. Talked about going corner earlier. DJ James a little bit lighter, but you can push him in the slot for that instance. Very buttery hips. He's a fun... Oh, that sounds so weird. He's smooth. There we go. Smooth athlete. At 119, I wouldn't be against it. Eagles go Cam Kinchens at 120. I'm in support of that. I mean, Cam Kinchens is still somebody who I have a lot of faith in. Regardless of his athleticism, he still shows high-end IQ on tape. Broncos go with Theo Johnson at 121. Worth bringing on, top-tier athlete, not really a good route runner from what I've seen via the linebackers I've seen go against him. But, he's a good player. Just, at 121, this is good value, just not in the second round. 122, the Bears go Hunter Norzad. He is a top 64 player. Speaking of the second round, he is at number 52 on my board. He's an incredible value for the Bears, who have pretty much patched the center with a couple backups. So I'm in full support of this one. Texans go Jaheim Bell at 123. A little bit too early to essentially get a clone of Brevin Jordan. And Brevin Jordan, in my opinion, was superior to Jaheim. Niners go Tanner Bortolini at 124. His anchor is a massive concern for me, but he does have some really good tape when he is on the move. So fingers crossed he ends up getting better, and his versatility is, going to be very coveted. He's played every position in the offensive line. Buccaneers go Brendan Rice, which it's funny that the Niners pass on him, but, going after Brendan Rice, far from a bad move at 125. I still think that Brendan Rice, who is number 58 on my board, can actually end up being a true number one wide receiver on a team if all works out. Like, if he ends up being 4.5 speed, like 4.5 flat, because he played much slower than that, he has like everything else to his game that I really enjoy. Hands can be a little iffy, but I still think it's worth taking. Gabe Hull is listed as an edge here for the Packers, which is very intriguing, but he's also another tweener, very similar to Brandon Dorless, as in, explosive, strong hands, going to be getting those quick wins, but can they win consistently? Gabe Hall at 126, I think is, a little bit early, but still, I think he's perfectly fine. That's going to be something that I don't criticize. Texans getting Caden Wallace. I don't know why nobody talks about Caden Wallace as a guard, because as a tackle, I agree, 127, solid range for him. As a guard, this guy is my number 50 player in the draft. I don't know why no one's talking about it. They should. His comfort, watch his tape when he plays against interior defensive linemen or when he has Theo Johnson next to him. The comfortability that this guy has when he doesn't have to be the tackle, the boundary piece, is incredible. It is such a difference in his play. So the Texans are going to get themselves a massive win on that one. And Caden's going to be back with Juice Scruggs, so that's going to be cool too. Bills go Jermaine Burton. Hopefully his personality gets in check because the talent was top 32 for the majority of the year. Falcons go Zach Zinter, guard out of Michigan. He's a good player, getting good depth here at 129, not a bad idea. Ravens go after Derrick Henry Jr. here in Braylon Allen, so I think that's a little bit of misutilization of draft capital, but still a very good player. Chiefs go Tanner McLaughlin, who's a former wide receiver, a little bit early in my opinion, but still a fun player. Niners go Malik Washington, so good range for him to go in, good after the catch. Bills go Cedric Johnson here at 133. 265, great athlete. Just I think he regressed a little bit in terms of his play over the year. My number 9 receiver in the draft, fun fact, Jamari Thrash to the Jets at 134. So you guys know already how I feel about that. Jarvis Brownlee's my number 39 player in the class. So seeing him at 135 to the Niners, again, you know what I think about that. Super fun. He's a dog. He did really well in the Senior Bowl as well. Pick number 136, the Broncos go Johnny Wilson, who's one of my favorite players in the class, my number 32 player in the class. I'm just going to be a strong believer in Johnny Wilson until the day I die. Is what it is. Patriots go Nelson Caesar at 137. He has some quick wins as well. I do doubt his ability to play every down, but at 137, that's kind of what you're paying for. Cardinals go Jaquan Jackson out of Tulane. He was entertaining to watch in Mobile, but I don't know if he's going to be getting. I don't think he fills the role for the Cardinals that they're going to be looking for. So This is a guy who I'd love to see on a roster, but maybe not for the Cardinals. You got the Commanders going Anaya Smith with the new kick return rules. Makes sense that he has increased value. Chargers going Defon Ulofosho. Great value. Just had a riddled injury past. Carolina Panthers going Jared Wiley at 141. As well as Tyke Smith at 142. I mean, those are two of my guys in this draft, so big fans of those two players. They're fantastic. Jared Wiley ate up SMU, so that's where I go to school, or went to school. Just graduated there, so love that. Go Ponies. But, Jared Wiley ate us up for lunch, and then Tyke Smith ended up testing out way better than I expected. So 143, the Falcons go Michael Pratt, quarterback out of Tulane. I think that is incredible value. Got to meet him there in Mobile. Mo Limmer to the Bills. Former right guard. I think his play took a massive step back this year, which really hurt my feelings. But, Bo's my number 2 interior offensive lineman coming into the year, has ended up dropping to 25, which, again, is like a kick in the balls. Pick 145, the Broncos go Justin Obuigbe. At 290, it's a fun tweener to have. You're going to definitely see what happens there. Might as well talk about Curtis Jacobs, who the Broncos took at 147, then go back to the Titans. But Curtis Jacobs slipped on my grades a little bit, even after I shouted him out. The more I watched him, he is a developmental player, if not a backup. At 147, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, though. Nehemiah Pritchett goes to the Titans at 146. Love to see Nehemiah Pritchett at 190 pounds being able to learn from L'Jarius Sneed. This is good value, as well as being able to pair him back up with his former buddy, who they put in the slot, Roger McCreary. Then we got 148 for the Raiders going Tyler Davis. A little bit early. He's a fun contributor, but I didn't really see much more than him just being more so on the sideline. One of those dudes who I really had a lot of hope for, but didn't end up panning out. Bengals go Dylan Johnson. Not a bad running back at all. Just at 149, a little bit early because, for the Bengals, I actually like the backups that they have much more than Dylan Johnson. I can't see a role being carved out for him being worth 159. Saints go Cade Stover at 150. They need a tight end, and this dude is really gritty, former edge rusher. Big fan of that. Colts go Bucky Irving, which is like essentially Zach Moss. I love that. Bucky Irving just tested out very, very poorly. At pick number 152, the Commanders go Tip Ryman out of Illinois. He's a really fun tight end. You feel free to go watch the Combine to see all their little fun facts on him because I can't pull him out of my ass at the moment. Pick 153, the Jaguars go Will Shipley. Very elusive back. Somebody who I think needs a little bit more love at 153, though. That's pretty solid. Rams go Gabriel Murphy, as well as Jalen Simpson. So, looking at these picks right here, Jalen Simpson's a fun safety. I just didn't really get to study him too much. I didn't think that he was that important, but we're going to be reevaluating him tomorrow. Gabriel Murphy is a high floor edge rusher, which I think pairs very well as an edge 3 or 4 for the Rams at 154. That's good value. Taj Washington, he was very underutilized there at USC in my opinion, but he still had some very high level tape. There's just a lot of dudes there to be fed, and I think Taj has a brighter NFL future than he did at USC. Jarrian Jones is a fun player to watch, man. I don't know why he started slipping, but slot corners that are developmental, not always going to be the best thing when a lot of the best receivers in the NFL are starting to utilize the slot a lot. Vikings at 157, good value. Miami at 158, Layden Robinson. This is good value for Layden. He's potential tackle as well, but has a lot to work on. Again, feel free to check out that interior offensive line video for more. Cowboys ended up getting Matt Lee. I love it. My interior offensive lineman, number 12, and I think he'll actually start and do very well for the Cowboys. Keith Randolph Jr. goes to the Bills at 160. Keith Randolph this is a good range for him. I think he's been very slept on, just in the shadow of Johnny Newton. 161, the Broncos go Tylen Grable, test out very well at the Combine. I just didn't really see too much from his game that I was excited about, but, very excited to see him prove me wrong. Same thing with Garrett Greenfield. Going to be one of those guys who's a little bit lower on my board, but the Cardinals end up, getting a developmental, very highly athletic offensive tackle here. Bills end up getting James Williams, who's going to be a linebacker / safety hybrid. Big fan of that. He's somebody who I had a lot of faith in. Thought he could be a top 5 pick in his true freshman year. Detroit Lions go Brennan Jackson, friend of the show. Might have him on the show as well. Right now, we're determining what's going to be happening as well, so it's going to be intriguing to see what happens there. But Brennan's an awesome player. He's going to be drafted, and, again, I've had my own little monologues about him. Feel free to check those out. But Brennan's a great dude. Excited for him to make his money and then get on to the next part of his career. Pick number 165, the Ravens go Jeremiah Trotter. He did end up being, I think, my linebacker 13. It hurts my heart. I wanted him to be so much better. Smart player, but athletically limited to a detrimental degree. His height really pops up. He can't really see around offensive linemen, is what it is. Trevor Keegan, very smart player, going to be just a very high floor, low ceiling guy, but the Giants getting a high floor backup guard, not a bad idea, especially with their new offensive line coach. Vikings going to Jacob Cowing. He's going to be a backup because, you're not going to, have him take starting reps. I mean, actually, no. He'd be a good slot for him. So he could end up really working out there. I think Jacob Cowing could actually end up starting. So I totally reversed myself right there. Anthony Gould's a fun one. He's going to be a good returner, especially with the new rules. Braden McGregor to the Packers. I wasn't the biggest guy on him, but Michigan gave some dude some problems. I didn't study Braden McGregor, to be honest. One, like specifically for himself. He just never popped off to me in tape study. Pick number 170, Saints go Jordan Jefferson. Love sticking some Bayou boys over in New Orleans. Defense interior is a big place for them to go. Julian Pearl going to the Eagles. I mean, I'm a big fan of this one. He ended up just having a couple key issues I think could be solved by Stoutland, and this guy could actually be a legitimate starter. McKinley Jackson also goes to the Eagles, getting another big body in there. Not the worst idea in the world. He's a fun gap penetrator at 320. You got Miles Harden here for the Chiefs. If he didn't have injuries, he'd probably be a top 150 pick. You got the Cowboys going Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Never really popped off to me, but again, I didn't really specifically study Notre Dame edge rushers one-on-one, which next year I'm planning to do literally a deep dive on every single player. Tyrone Tracy goes to the Saints. Former wide receiver who just transitioned to running back for a year. Good pass protector as well. So good value right there. Niners get Isaac Guerrero, which is ridiculous value. Love that for him. He's one of the biggest, freakiest backs there at the combine at 4.33 at 220 pounds. Vikings go Xavier Thomas. He is a top 64 player for me. So love that for the Vikings. Steelers go Fabian Lovett. I'm not going to be someone who loves this pick. I don't love it. God, I mean, I don't know why I have any subscribers. But at 179, we have the Seahawks going Quantez Stiggers. Good player for the value, especially showed out at the Shrine. New England Patriots go Cody Schrader. It's a very New England Patriots pick, but I think it's a little early for him. He had a lot of success statistically, but not necessarily translatably. Isaiah Williams goes to the Chargers at 181. Tested out pretty poorly, 4.65 40. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he ended up having 200-yard games there, so he's a guy worth taking a swing on. Eric All goes to the Titans. As long as he stays healthy, he's a top 100 pick in this class. The problem is he's not been healthy. Giants go Eric Watts, edge rusher out of UConn. He's an intriguing one. I didn't really ever fall in love with him, but statistically speaking, he's pretty solid. Miami Dolphins go Jalen Harrell. Same soliloquy as I talked about with McGregor earlier. The Jets go Justin Rogers. I like Marcus Harris significantly more, so we'll put it there. Cardinals go Kalen King. Worth taking a shot on because, again, he was pretty much a first rounder until week 2 of this first year, of this year, which is worth taking a swing on at 186. The fall off is tremendous, but it's worth trying to take and find a really good player from the past. At 187, the Falcons go Tommy Eichenberg, who is my linebacker number 4. The Texans then go back-to-back with Jalen Ford, my linebacker 5, and Ray Davis, who has had some excellent games. Dwight McLaughlin goes at 190 to the Saints. Dwight's going to be, I think, my corner 15 or 14. So got a corners video out on that as well for you to check out. But he's his high end play in off-man coverage is incredible. Matt Goncalves going to the Indianapolis Colts. Love that for him. He ended up just leaving week 3 this year, which sucks, but his play is actually I want him on my team. I got that impression when I ended up watching him. Bo Braid to the Seahawks at 192 fits their system, fits their value system as well. And then, at 192, it works. 193, the Patriots go Cam Little. I don't study special teams. I'm sorry. I just don't. Bengals go Ladarius Henderson at 194. I think he's actually a true left tackle. I don't think he actually would end up working out as a guard, so it is what it is. Steelers go Javon Solomon at 195. Undersized, but, the highlight level plays are there. I'm perfectly fine with that. The Rams go Tyrese Knight, who I'm a big fan of for the ceiling. His processor is Garbo, but his run defense is actually the best out of all the linebackers in the class. So, you got to watch out for that. This guy has a highlight reel that is as good as any of the other linebackers in the class. DeAndre Prince Didn't really get wowed by him, but the Falcons getting corner depth, never a bad idea. Dominique Hampton at 220 pounds. Nice number 2 safety there for the Dolphins. Or actually, he's going to be probably number 3 or number 4, but good depth safety. Torrey Taylor for the Saints, again. I mean, I've heard good things about him, but I just don't know personally. Travis Glover for the Bills, excellent depth there. Can be also a guard as well. So I like that versatility. Jawan Briggs, didn't get too excited from his tape, but I've seen some really fun ones where he ends up plowing offensive linemen. So I always love a guy who can enforce. Packers go Keaton Oladapo. Good safety depth there to rotate in. Kamani Vidal goes to the Jets. And it's a really talented running back. He's somebody who I want an official grade on before the draft. Blake Watson goes to the Bills. Really versatile, good vision as well. Just, he didn't get invited to the combine. Like, his high-end tape is cool, but I think it's actually more so the floor that is worth spending on for Blake Watson. He could probably stick on to a practice squad at the very minimum for a while. Johnny Dixon, he's a solid depth player at corner for the Lions. Didn't really do too much there at Penn State. Cleveland Browns go Isaiah Davis. I wasn't over the moon about him, but I think he's actually better than the offensive lineman listed before him. I think he made the offensive lineman look better than the offensive lineman made him. Khalid Duke goes to the Denver Broncos. Wasn't wowed by his play at all, got to be honest. But, again, we're at 207. Rasheen Ali goes to the Raiders. I love showing some love for Marshall guys. Running back, definitely a position they should target. Logan Lee is an athletic. He's just like a physical freak. He's pretty much a big-ass downgrade from Lucas Van Ness, but it is what it is. White dude from Iowa going to the Rams. I'm fine with that. AJ Barner's a great blocker. I think he'd be a massive addition on the Eagles. He'd be, like, compared to where he'd be elsewhere. I think this is a guy who would stick around the Eagles for a while. Luke McCaffrey goes to the Niners. Love bringing the brother of, why am I forgetting the other McCaffrey's first name? Christian McCaffrey. So, big fan of that one. Good value as well for a very talented route runner, but I think this is a good range for him. Roseme Jack Saint goes to the Jaguars. He's a bigger wide receiver. He's an enforcer as well. I like what he brings to the table in that receiving core. I just would hope that the Jaguars would have a better number 1. Jalen Coker goes to the Rams. Underwhelming in terms of his speed, but he ended up testing explosiveness-wise very, very well. Evan Anderson goes to the Bengals. Did not study him, but defensive interior, always a good bet to go for the Bengals. Giovanni Manu, I did not watch any British Columbia tape, but I love the representation. Cornelius Johnson goes to the Dallas Cowboys, ended up testing out well while he was there in Arlington at AT&T Stadium there at the Shrine Bowl. Dylan Laube going to the Rams feels like a very Rams move, but I don't really know if it solves much of an issue for him. Javian Cohen goes to the Ravens. He needs a lot of work, but back when he was playing at Bama, he was someone who I had a lot of hope for in terms of his potential. At 219, the Packers go MJ Devonshire. I'm not the biggest fan of him. He's going to be a rotational guy at best. Dallin Holker is going to the Buccaneers at 220. That's awesome. I mean, he's the guy who caught 2 balls at once at the Combine. He's somebody who I have probably around my top 200. Chiefs end up going Sion Vaki. Should have been a running back. Probably actually might convert back to one, but at 221, might as well take it. Kingsley Agukun, love his personality, love his drive. Just his play sometimes doesn't translate well, but at 222, good depth. Ryan Flournoy, extremely underrated. Probably my favorite pick so far from the later day 3 portion. I think he actually ends up sticking and potentially getting some starting reps here, which is great value at 223. Bengals go Sam Hartman. Good backup, just a little bit weak of an arm, as you saw with the speed throwing drill. At 225, the Chargers go Mason Pline. I did not watch Furman. If you watch Furman, I tip my cap to you, brother, but I did not. Cardinals go Tyron Hopper, who is, I think, my linebacker 6 or 7. Love his pass rushing upside as well. Great athlete. Just, he's an interesting project. 227, the Browns go Jordan McGee. He's somebody who I'm betting a lot on. There's just no all-22 tape, so I'm not going to give that type of grade to you guys. He's going to end up being a top 150 player. Daquan Hardy, he didn't wow me at Penn State, but for 228, it's worth taking a swing on. I love Penn State players. Sundiata Anderson, I've seen a lot of love for this guy. But, for me, I didn't end up watching him, but getting edge depth, not a bad idea for the Raiders. Vikings then go Bub Means, who tested out very, very well from Pittsburgh. He has some good highlight reel tape, so, somebody who I could actually end up seeing sticking in the NFL. Willie Drew, is a good depth player for the Patriots in their secondary. Charles Turner III for the Vikings is a depth center. I mean, you're getting a depth center. LSU loves to train their guys in terms of run blocking. You're pairing them back up with not Anthony Bradford. That guy's on the Seahawks, but from 2 years before that. I'm forgetting the name of the guard that you guys have off the top of my head, but I think that they did end up playing together there at LSU. Love that reunion there. Isaiah Johnson, cornerback from Syracuse, high floor. Syracuse corners always have a very high floor. We'll stick to practice squad at the very minimum for the Cowboys. Not a bad idea. Michael Barrett gets the short end of the stick. He does have some high-end flashes, but I mean, again, the height definitely gets to him. It's sub 6 foot. The Colts end up getting themselves a good player, though. I mean, he's a good role player. Seahawks end up going David White. Did not watch Western Carolina, so power to him. Shaw Smith-Wade actually had some really good reps there at the Senior Bowl, so the Jaguars actually get them somebody who could actually stick on the 53. Austin McNamara, got to meet him there in Mobile, but again, I don't watch special teams. Carrollton Johnson didn't wow me at all, but, you know, Texans getting depth corner at this point, never a bad idea to take swings. Same thing with Josh Proctor to the Saints. He had some pretty good tape out there. I think he's getting hated on a little more than he should. Jarrett Kingston, I mean, that whole USC line never got to let him show out his true potential, but the Panthers taking a swing on him here. He was certainly the best of the worst. John Tree Hunter, linebacker at Georgia State, going to the Dolphins, worth taking a swing on at this point as well. Same thing with Maurice Liufau. To the Titans, the Titans need some help in the linebacking core. Maurice used to be a top 100 player to PFF, so, you know, obviously he's shown the potential. Evan Williams, I didn't think he was that special, but at 243, you know, getting some extra DB depth, never a bad idea. The best player from Air Force I've seen in a while, Trey Taylor, goes to the Cowboys, so it certainly can end up working out. Walter Rouse is a tackle guard hybrid. His anchor is just Garbo. But, you know, former Stanford tackle, I love that for him. Jace McClellan's a high floor back going to the Buccaneers, going to be essentially like, he's going to be someone who's probably going to be really deep on your depth chart, maybe going to be on the practice squad, but, you know, fun player nonetheless. He does have some really high-end tape from 2022. Dylan McMahon, you know, it's a backup center for the Texans. Never going to shame a team for going O-line. I love Joe Milton. Putting him with Josh Allen is as good as you could probably ask for. I think he could end up being a really good learner and actually end up going to another team and developing as a, you know, I mean, call me crazy, but I could think that he could start if he learns properly. Ethan Driscoll to the Lions. He had some good reps there for sure in the offseason at the Star Bowls, so good for him. Dejon Anthony. I didn't really think the secondary for Ole Miss was that special, but, you know, Ravens getting extra DBs, never a bad idea. ZTF going to the Niners. I love it. You know, he's pretty much a DPR exclusively at 251, worth it. Nathan Thomas, I'll always bet on Louisiana players for sure. And the Titans need some extra offensive line help. Tyler Owens is an athletic freak. He's a dude at like a 12-2 broad. Going to the Chargers, you might as well take a chance on someone who has that type of potential. Again, don't really look at special teams, but Josh Carty to the Rams, I'd rather just go to the UFL. Then you got KT Levelston going to the Packers, another offensive lineman, but, you know, he's definitely going to be a guard. He was absolute butt cheeks as a tackle. It made me feel bad when I watched him next to Cooper Beebe. Gottlieb Idze out of Maryland, going to the Broncos. You know, it's worth taking swings on offensive line. And then Mr. Irrelevant, we got Jordan Travis. You know, the high-level tape is certainly there, but the low-level tape is pretty damn glaring. So hoping for Jordan Travis coming off that leg break, that he ends up being as good as we prayed for him to be and being another really great Mr. Irrelevant. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love y'all. See you on the far side.